I didn't plan this one, but this is going to be part 2 of the American kings and queens and princes and princesses thing that I just did. Now, for those of you caught that, they've got this supposed whatever amendment that says there can be no titles of nobility. That right there should tell you that there's a lie afoot, not to refer to any Air Force bases or anything that might be surveilling anybody 24/7. I'm just saying. However, any kind of title of nobility would be a nobleman. It's just a nobleman. Nobleman. Titles of nobility would be noble, would they not? So that should tell you something is wrong right there. But all natural men and natural women, natural boys, natural girls, born on these United States of America that we know as, are American kings, American queens, American princes, and American princesses. But here's another part of that. And to set it up, later on you're going to run into something called, this is how they use words, to trick you, to steal from you. They, meaning the Franks, to steal from the American sovereigns. And there is something called the power of the purse and the separation of powers, I should say. Now, listen to those two phrases, and I'm going to show you right here how they trick your mind to believing what you believe, backed up by their less than truthful explanations. We'll put them that way. Okay, so the power of the purse could mean a short version of reference to the power of persuasion, which attorneys use a lot, referred to as praetorians who protect these Franks. But they even had that on their own website, so they can't argue it. The powers of persuasion. But the powers of the purse, power of the purse. First of all, there's two things. First of all, it does not exclusify. It does not exclusify the Congress. And must I remind you again that horrible prefix con? Yeah. Part of that modern TV government thing. Well, the power of the purse, the very best sense, is not exclusive to what is known as Congress. And I hate to break it to you, but there's Congresses everywhere. So which one are they referring to? Kind of the same thing as you took an oath and you swore to the Constitution. Which one? If it's not in their agreement, they don't specify. That's how they get away with this stuff. They being the Franks. Okay, another one you have is the separation of powers. Well, guess how that went? They've been doing nothing but separating the actual true sovereign powers from the people, from the American sovereign people, ever since. Now, the separation of powers from those who actually hold it. They didn't really separate anything. It's a perceptional thing. It's like a two-step perceptional thing. They didn't separate anything, but they want you to think it's a separation of judicial, executive, and legislature. No. Because remember now, the Franks answer to their descendants, their minions, their associates. That's a big one. I'll explain that later. And their affiliates. certain ways. One of them is a separation of powers, how they separated the powers from the American sovereigns and gave them to themselves. That's how they use separation of powers, and that is just not true. But the trickery element is there, and they can't deny that. So that's called guilt by self-evidence. It's self-evident. Okay, so just another quick note about the your American royalty. As you are naturally born on these North American homelands known as the United States of America. Okay? And once again, all natural men are American kings, all natural women are American queens, all natural boys are American princes, and all natural girls are American princesses, as I'm sure all parents think of them to be. And that is simply the way it is. The reason, if you want to take it one step further, the reason why they don't want that out and about is because, well, that might just give away. See, if you go back to the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, and I'll cover this later, and the Articles of Confederation, if you know how corporate governance works, that's what they're trying to turn everything into, the Franks. They usually have 2 memos that are required. So if you really take a good look and know that the Franks kind of added a con on both titles, well, then they can do whatever they want. Would that not be true? So is the Constitution not called the Constitution? Is the declarification or the declaratization of a certain pendants there, or is there a Articles of Confederation there? So to go over it one more time, when I checked them out and just looked at what was in them, I found them to be the Articles of Enterprise, which they tried to hide from you. There is a way to prove that. I found the middle one and they're missing something from there, by the way. It's like international contracts or the Model Treaty of 1776 that they hide from you. The middle one is more of a clarification of pendants, meaning that you do what you want, or free choice. That's called an actual election or free election. Okay? And then you have the Articles of Federation, not Confederation. Articles of Federation. And if we're really going sua sponte, on the spot, and ab initio, which is traced back to the most valid point, you trace it back to the Articles of Federation down to the bottom. You'll see some NCD 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever notes. If you've ever seen Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, he'll say, but I find the reference section a little more enlightening. That's what he's referring to. And it is much more enlightening. And that is your point of ab initio. They're still there. You can use anything in there still. But for some reason, it doesn't match up to being a con. And if it does, somebody's in big trouble. All right. Have a good one. Talk to you next time.